Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's Public Health Roundtable Live. We are excited to be here and to jump into our topic for this month. This is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we have a lot to talk about. So, my name is Dr. Charlotte Huntley. I am the CEO of Dr. C.H. Huntley LLC. This is a public health consulting firm where we focus on serving large nonprofit organizations with very specifically communicating health information to the communities that they serve using plain language. Very simply put, there are a lot of challenges with large nonprofits, especially because there are usually multiple departments, and there's a lot of challenges with communicating between teams, internal departments, external partners, as well as the individuals in the community. So that's where we really like to show up and serve. I'm also the host of the Public Health Epidemiology Conversations podcast, which is coming up on 300 episodes. We've been publishing a new episode every Tuesday since 2017. So we're really excited about that. Actually, when I think about that and say it out loud, it takes me back a little bit. I am joined by an incredible panel. Huge fans of each and every one of them. And I'm delighted to have them join me and to share in this topic and this discussion today. So let's go around the table one by one and get some introductions. Let's start with you, Dr. Joy.
Hello. I am glad to be here. My name is Dr. Joy Washington. I am a community health research and education consultant, and I am CEO of Joy Washington Consulting, LLC. And our mission is to revolutionize public health by transforming public health research into positive community impact. So we really want to see how research can be transformed to implement those solutions that bring joy to the communities that we serve. And we accomplish this by providing research support such as training, technical assistance, and advising to community-based organizations, nonprofits, and public health organizations. And I'm also host of the Public Health Joy podcast, which is a safe space where we discuss what building a public health research career is really like, including the triumphs, the challenges, and all the lessons we learn along the way.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Harvey Kennedy Pitt, and I'm an independent public health consultant that runs the consultancy Unstuck. Now, Unstuck is a health equity transformation consultancy, which really focuses on individuals and their organizations and how we can build capacity through adaptation. And it's all based on 8 public health principles. I'm also the CEO and founder director of the charity Black Beetle Health, which is a UK-based charity that supports LGBTQ+ people from racially minoritized backgrounds. And I'm an absolute fan of both the podcasts that have been mentioned and the people behind them as well. Thanks so much for having me.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is certainly a pleasure to be here with you all. I am Erica Horn. I am currently a Doctor of Public Health student at Florida A&M University, and I'm getting into my dissertation phase, so I'm really excited about that. A lot of the work that I do is surrounding diabetes management and working with faith-based organizations. I'm in the infancy stages of my consulting business, which is a Carey Consulting, and I'll be working with large nonprofits. I'll be working with faith-based organizations to do program planning for different health-related programs that they may be trying to plan, health fairs, speaking engagements. So anything that's related to that area, I just love going and speaking to people about overall health and wellness and taking time to care for themselves. It's very important for us as individuals, especially within the communities that we work with and that we serve. And I'm just really excited to be here with all of you today. And thanks so much for having me.
All right. So the topic today, as I mentioned earlier, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And we all could easily agree that we don't need a specific month. It should be, all the time. But we do have a special time to highlight and bring awareness. So I thought it would be great for us to incorporate that and think about, that in our topic for today. So really addressing mental health challenges. We're going to take a moment and I want to be able to hear from each of our panelists on what that means to them in their business and their work, just what comes up for them. And I will start first. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I started consulting years ago, but initially I focused more on coaching. I've always had this consulting side and then this coaching side of my business. And it was career coaching and then specifically into entrepreneurship and starting consultancy and so forth. And for all of the years that I coached, regardless of the direction, the career or the business focus, there's something really a common theme that emerged, and it's really around the self-doubt, this feeling of not being enough, whether it didn't matter how many degrees or certificates or experience. People were really quick to chase after another certification or another degree, or think that they needed to go get some more experience before starting that thing, whether it was going after a job that they really wanted to be in, or starting the business they felt inspired to start. It's just a common theme, and I've seen it across the board, from the students all the way up to people who have multiple letters behind their names and years of experience. And it's a really hard, heavy feeling to carry. And actually, I can speak from personal experience. I think all of us deal with it on some level, but there have been, I've had it in my career journey. I remember a lot of times hitting a lot of walls and a lot of challenges that, kind of legitimately made me feel like, have the self-doubt rise up. But sometimes, you can just be going along and look like you're at the top of the game, and you're still on the inside going, oh my gosh, am I really okay? Can I do this? Do I know what I'm doing? This may or may not have happened to me recently, but it's just worth kind of bringing up, because the repercussions are vast, and they're huge. If you think about the state of public health right now, workforce, we see posts and articles that talk about the reduced, workforce of the people that are working in public health, and the need is so great. We need to have more people coming into the field, excited to come into the field. We need to have the people who are in the field feeling that they are capable and able to step up and step into these positions, share their inspiration, really lead the changes that we need to see. How do we deal with this? I think it comes one step at a time. We need to take this introspective look. We often need to remind ourselves of what we have accomplished. I say this often to people: find all of those degrees and all of those certifications and all of those awards that you've received, frame them and put them on the wall if you need to. But we need to find a way to remind ourselves often of our accomplishments, not just looking to the next thing we need to do, or the next, thing we're after, but remind ourselves of what we have accomplished, so that we can build confidence and it's like, oh yes, of course I can do this because I've done this. And if it's in your face, if it's right there all the time, it helps you. And I've done that. In my home office, I have a whole wall that you all never would see, but behind my computer is every degree I've ever earned, and certifications. Everything is framed on the wall because I needed that in front of me all the time. And it doesn't stop from, having these feelings come up, but it's just one way, that I could address it, myself. And then, as far as in communities, I have really invested a lot of time and energy, all from the very first day of business all the way up until right now, into bringing together communities of people who are, like-minded, supportive, collaborative, because that's how we win and that's how we support each other, especially on the entrepreneurial journey. That can be very scary, very challenging. So, not to get ultra long-winded, but I just think that in terms of mental health, there's really not taking yourself too seriously, and not being so hard on yourself, and finding ways to remind yourself of the accomplishments, like more of what, from this abundance perspective, more of what you have accomplished and what you do bring to the table, and less of what you're missing and what you don't have. So that's where I wanted to share today.
Yeah, so I can definitely resonate for sure, especially with the degrees and certifications that I have. And I think a lot of times when it comes to mental health, we start thinking about it as far as personal responsibility, right? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel imposter syndrome? I have the degrees, I have what is going on. And so I think there's a lot of times where we also have to acknowledge there's a world of systemic oppression and power and privilege, especially for people of color, for Black people, for people of the BIPOC community. There's this system that's always working against us. And how does that impact our mental health? And I think for me, I think about a conversation someone had asked me. I had gotten my PhD and I was going for my next certification in something else. And somebody asked me, why are you going for another certification? Like, you have a PhD, you've reached the top. Like, why do you feel the need to keep doing this? And I thought about it and I was like, why do I keep doing this? Like, a PhD should be enough, right? But as a Black woman in America, what do I look like compared to my counterparts? So I don't do it because I just want to go out there and get it. I feel like I have to, because when people are looking at me compared to someone else who does not look like me, I have to be, what the saying is, I have to be twice as good, right? And we put that pressure on ourselves to meet those societal expectations, right? And then when we don't meet those societal expectations that are often unfair and inequitable, right? We start feeling like we're the failures. And then we start coming into this downward spiral, right? So, how do we start managing our mental health from a level of taking it from personal responsibility and saying, how is the system impacting me and my mental health? And that's kind of the way that I think about it and interpret it. Because when I started thinking about that way, I'm like, these failures are not my fault. It's not me. It's something, it's a greater system working against me. And I have to figure out how to navigate this.
Is there any specific strategy or anything that you do to help you when you're feeling that you're that little challenge where you have to tell yourself, maybe sometimes it's not as easy. I'm not always listening to myself, but is there any other strategy? What do you do when you're trying to deal with that when you're bumping up against that particular stress?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is being in an environment where I feel supported, being around the people who I know will support me, who will listen to me, having that community around me, right? So it's all about, for me, finding those people who are going to love on me when I feel like I can't love myself at that moment, because that's going to be the people who you need to lean into, because they are going to be the ones to pick you up off the floor when you are torn to pieces and crying. And believe me, after spending 10 years in grad school, and I'm talking about this very same thing on my podcast episode that's coming up this Friday, that is the thing that helps me make that transformation, is leaning into those things, those people that are going to help me push past what often seems like a failure.
Yeah, it's really, really easy to bounce off of what Dr. Joy is saying, because it's so true. This is from my own perspective. I've lived in different countries. I've obviously lived in the UK, but I've also spent time in South Korea for nearly 6 years. I've lived in the United States as well, and the theme follows that theme of, where do I fit in? What is my purpose here? And linking that back to things like race or class or educational background, or how many letters you have behind your name. And I can confirm that it's absolutely true here in the UK as well. And I think the what we face in this conversation is not knowing ourselves very well. And I think going back to the foundation of, who am I? Who am I? What do I stand for? What is my personal brand? And this is why I developed this new ebook, which I launched a couple of weeks ago, entitled Knowing Your No-Nos, which is all about building capacity through adaptation, because it takes you through 6 different areas of life, including family and friends, which is, sort of sometimes a sore subject, depending on your identity and your background and how things align, because sometimes you're not surrounded by the tribe that you need. And sometimes you're not managing your resources as you need, sort of finances, thinking about your health. Maybe we're not taking time to think about it. And that sort of quick rapid fire ebook really covers those different areas. And it's, of course, based on those 8 public health principles that I introduced earlier on, thinking about autonomy, thinking about equity, thinking about participation, affordability, efficiency, all these things that we know, but we don't necessarily go about in, sort of the right way of implementing them on as practitioners. So we sort of think, I'm going to just reflect this to the communities I serve, or I'll reflect these principles to my workforce that I work within, or I'm going to help someone else. But actually, if we start right at home, thinking about our personal brand, what are my no-nos? There's something that you say, Dr. Huntley, around learning to say no so that you can say yes. And that is absolutely, the golden thread that runs through a lot of what we're saying already, which is, how can we know what we're saying yes to if we don't know what we're saying no to? And so this sort of tool that's at the back of this book is this personal branding checklist. And it absolutely aligns to mental health and well-being, whether it's a sort of around the controversial word resilience, because some people feel a certain way about the word resilience, don't know if it's the right thing to sort of use, particularly in the context of burnout. But I'll use it for the purposes of this conversation, which is thinking about, how do we bounce back? Or how do we stop from needing to bounce back in the first place? And it's by being really, really quick and rapid fire on those no's. And so something I'm personally working on now is listening to my intuition. I don't always get it right, but not only do I listen to that little voice inside of me that's like, that's not going to work, but I also try to encourage people around me to do the same thing. It's there for a reason. It can really be, your number one tool that can avoid sort of pitfalls and things like that. So I focus on capacity as a consultant. I focus on health equity transformation, how we can change how people are practicing sort of health equity across different types of organizations and the people who lead them. And I think if they know their personal brand, whether individually or collectively, things like capacity will become less of an issue. So yeah, I just want to share that.
Wow, this has been awesome already. I resonate so well with what everyone has said. I'm definitely looking forward to the podcast, and I just got my ebook, so I'm ready to read it. That's next up on my to read list. But honestly, everything with surrounding mental health is so important. Learning to say your no's, learning when to say your yeses, and personally being able to know yourself and knowing your brand. I recently did a presentation like that for the students in our program about knowing their personal brand as students and how to present themselves as professionals depending on the field that they want to go in. So that was really in line with what I'm thinking about as well. And it really hit home personally because as a student, a lot of times we think, okay, you go through the classes, you do what you need to do in your student organizations, you're a leader here, you're a leader in your community, but taking the time to take care of your own personal mental health. We will easily go to the doctor, we'll easily say, oh, something's wrong here, I'm going to go get my toe or my elbow looked at. But when there's things going on mentally, or we feel drained, or we feel overworked, or we feel burned out, a lot of times we're not, there's a huge stigma surrounding mental health, especially within the Black community. So I try to always promote, yes, especially as a woman of faith as well, and within like different faith-based organizations, like, yes, pray, meditate, do what you do, seek out your elders, seek out prayer and guidance, but also seek out therapy. I know for myself, I go regularly because I need to. And even when I started my program, I started therapy because it was a new transition in my life. Prior to it was not talked about. It was very taboo, as they say. No one talked about it within my culture. No one talked about it within my church. So knowing that going into my doctorate program was going to be something huge, I'd heard enough talk through the grapevine about, therapy, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I was like, well, let me go see for myself. And it was free through school. So might as well, I was able to kill two birds with one stone. So I started, and it was very helpful because a lot of the things that we're discussing as far as why did I feel like I had to go get another degree? Why do I feel like I need to get another certification? Why do I feel like I have to do all these things to prove myself? Why is it that I didn't fully know who I was or what I was doing, and I was trying to hide or trying to mask myself with all these different things? Really became apparent, and the therapy was very helpful for me as I was transitioning, especially with going into a community of people that looked like me. I was used to being in a community of people who did not look like me growing up and in school. So being surrounded by other Black excellent scholars and young professionals who are absolutely amazing in everything they do in public health as well was different for me. And it is a great experience. I'm enjoying the experience, but I'm also grateful that I actually took the time to go and seek out therapy and counseling and start embracing it, and then finding methods that help me to maintain my mental health. Because it's one thing to just say, oh, okay, well, you're not feeling well today, just take a day off. But like being intentional and seeking out support and having a community that does support me and is there to help me, it only makes me be better so that I can help the communities that I can serve. I can't pour from an empty cup. None of us can. And that's essentially if we are just continuously pouring and giving of ourselves as public health professionals and entrepreneurs and business owners, and we never get the chance to be poured back into, we'll run dry. And in order for us to actually work and serve people that we truly want to serve, and we have a desire to serve, and we have a passion to serve, we really have to take care of ourselves as professionals. And whether that is, seeking counseling, whether it's journaling, whether it's, listening to music or working out, whatever it is, we should definitely all be doing that for ourselves to make sure that we're in our best to be able to help others. So that's how important I view mental health.
I have enjoyed every last one of you. I'm going to give you each a moment to just kind of, share any final thoughts, any words as we wrap up. So we'll kind of go back to you, Dr. Joy.
Yeah, I think that when we're talking about our mental health, a lot of times we don't think of ourselves as the most important asset. And the most important asset in our lives and in our work and the things that we do is ourselves. And so if we want to protect the most important asset, then we have to do what we need to do for our mental health, but that's also going to require some radical healing. And that's the way that we have to approach it. And I have another podcast episode that's titled Radical Healing, where we talk about that. What does self-care look like? What does it look like, as Erica said, to take care of ourselves so that we can best serve our community? So when you're thinking about your mental health, think about the fact of approaching it from a sense of radical healing and then protecting the most important asset, which is yourself.
I definitely want to add, that one of the tools that I certainly use in my work is based on the 2008 publication by the New Economics Foundation, all about the 5 ways to well-being. And we talk about being active, taking notice, connecting with other people, learning something new, and giving of your time, whether that is giving of your resources in terms of financially donating to something, but also giving your time, which I think is probably more valuable, and how that can create quite a holistic approach to sort of your mental well-being and just your overall mental well-being, frankly. So this is evidence-based. When we're sharing personal experiences like Erica, but there's also plenty of evidence to support the fact that this really works. And if we do these 5 different things, we can experience that radical healing, or that transformational sort of experience that Dr. Joy is talking about. So, yes, it's a tool, yes, it's a publication, but I think it's even more important for people who identify as minoritized, whether that's due to race or disability or faith or any other thing within the wider population, because of the levels of stress that we can sometimes experience as minorities. Of course, we know that to be minority stress theory, and so anything we can do to counteract that is going to have a healing and sort of property to it. So I would strongly encourage people to not only practice those things, but also engage in certificates or learning that helps you to understand what mental health and well-being actually is, such as mental health first aiding, as we discussed in the prelim. So that's sort of the tack on that I'd add to the end of this conversation. Thank you.
I think my final thoughts are surrounding the understanding that mental health is health. Understanding that we all have mental health. I had a good friend that broke it down real plain. When you're sick, you go to the doctor. Even you go regularly just for a regular checkup. So if you think of your mental health the same way, you won't be scared to approach different ways to ensure that it is well. Just like we talk about physical activity, working out, staying fit, eating the right things, nourishing our bodies, nourishing ourselves. The same thing mentally. What are we intaking mentally that's going to nourish our minds and make sure that it's well? And as long as we consider that our mind and our mental health is our health as well, then it would be less taboo within the communities, and it's easier for us as a whole to take care of the mental health and acknowledging that it does exist and that it is there. And mental health is not illness, it's not sickness, it's just your health. So understanding that will help us all realize that mental health is just health, it's your wealth, and it should be cared for just like every other part of us.
Thank you all. I mean, we could probably go in so many different directions and talk about this all day. But I thank you for coming to the roundtable, for sharing your expertise and your thoughts and your experiences, and for being transparent. Each of you really shared from personal perspectives, and that really, I think, helps with this connectedness. Using the virtual technology and which we appreciate. We all appreciate having. But I think when we can be a little vulnerable and a little transparent, it helps to humanize it. We remind ourselves and each other that, we have some similarities. We, different messages will resonate. This has been such a delight to host. This is our 3rd now Roundtable Live event. And I'm really enjoying the chance, like I said, to host this and host this conversation and facilitate this discussion. And I appreciate all of my guests for showing up. But again, thank you all for coming here today, each of you for being on the panel today. Appreciate your insights. We're going to say bye for now, and we'll see you next month.